My name is Pranavi and I am a youth volunteer for Brampton Library. Today, I will be informing you on how we can ensure a sustainable recovery from COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic was an unprecedented global health crisis, which continues to take a heartbreaking toll on human life, whilst overtaxing public healthcare systems. However, the impact of the virus exceeds that, having crippled the global economy and financial markets. The livelihoods of millions was placed at risk, as employment opportunities were diminished, there existed labor shortages everywhere, and the well-being of small businesses was severely threatened. All of which were the repercussions of the implementations of reactive measures to mitigate disease spread worldwide, with Canada experiencing an initial decline in gross domestic product by approximately 13.5%. Globalization, urbanization, and outsourcing caused a reduction in productivity as international trade was impeded and travel proved to be a super spreader of the virus. A recent survey conducted discovered that the pandemic and resultant inflation to combat supply shortages continues to pose threats to domestic economic growth, which provokes the question of how we can ensure sustainable economic prosperity. In essence, how can we guarantee that any measures taken to rebuild the economy will be effective long-term and will combat existing inequities? There is no doubt that the pandemic has been a catalyst for change, as it transformed the economic, political, and social world on an enormous scale, and I have confidence that the global recovery effort will shine a light on what the future will look like, stressing the validity of integrating technology and the preservation of the natural environment in the economic recuperation. In consideration of the acceleration in technological advancement and convergence, there is no doubt that digitalization for domestic industries can definitely increase productivity, especially amongst local businesses and smaller entrepreneurial initiatives. This process would help companies adapt to the changing business world as they would be able to adapt their business models to the increasingly online economy, and this would intrinsically forge new channels of revenue online. In addition, the use of digital services and e-commerce can expand economic competitiveness and provide consumers with a platform to conduct business activity despite severe mobility restrictions, the lack of locally available stock, or potential international consumers. Already, the pandemic has incurred a historic deployment of digital access to services and remote work. Some industries have already increased levels of digital adoption in comparison to others on account of factors such as feasibility, access to technology, and the efficiency of their digital channels. For instance, banks have transitioned to remote sales teams, grocery stores have offered online order and delivery options, and there exists education online with the digital classroom resources. Although certain enterprises have already incorporated analytics and artificial intelligence into their operations, industries will have to deal with an unpredictable demand as the economy begins to recover, which stresses the need for identifying changing consumer needs and fine-tuning new organizational models which could extend across digital and physical vendors to ensure optimal business activity. Now, as the economy rebounds, humanity needs to also prioritize the environment by implementing green recovery measures. Spending targets for COVID-19 stimulus measures and recovery plans should include environmental-related research and development, the promotion of jobs in environment conservation, sustainable development, and more. Because contrary to popular belief, the lockdowns and restrictive measures evoked by the pandemic did not majorly reduce overall pollution levels and carbon emissions. And as economic activity recommences, the minimal reduction in pollution is being reversed. Meanwhile, the plastic pandemic raged on as the widespread usage of personal protective equipment and medical supplies, single-use face masks in particular, have amplified global plastic waste and littering. The environment and the economy are interconnected, and it's important to recognize why we as a society need to address the climate crisis in order to effectively recover from the pandemic economically. Climate change hugely affects various aspects of the economy, such as the efficacy of the supply chain, the capability of businesses to operate during extreme weather events as they increase in frequency, as well as the ability for transportation infrastructure to withstand unpredictable weather patterns that they were not designed to handle. Now, action that can be implemented that will immediately create employment opportunities whilst mitigating climate change includes improving the energy efficiency of buildings and appliances, which can be accomplished through the amelioration of insulation, lighting, heating, and cooling systems, in addition to adopting energy monitoring systems, and green construction practices, such as optimizing interior space and using materials that are more durable over time, such as steel and drywall. Embracing these measures would have a similar impact to adopting electric vehicles, for example. The exploration of renewable energy sources, suppliers, and green technology should not stop, rather be invested in. And the slow ascension of popularity for such companies can also create green jobs, which would reduce unemployment, as would any scientific initiative to diminish the adverse impact of human activity on the environment. Additionally, urban planning, which focuses on the usage of land, should be restructured to ensure that low levels of carbon are used in daily transportation. This can be achieved through planning for mobility and reducing travel demand by constructing communities in a fashion where there exists infrastructure for sustainable travel, and this would employ public health experts and construction advisors. This would strongly encourage improving passenger car fuel efficacy and electrification as well through the application of sustainable transport technologies. Now, in order to ensure that the economic recovery is sustainable, society must also address existing disparities. For example, representation is extremely important, and the vulnerability of employment opportunities has specifically placed the diverse talent of minority communities at risk. This calls for increasing the participation of women in the workforce, as they were disproportionately affected by the pandemic, with female unemployment levels being significantly higher than their male counterparts. This can be combated through the introduction of support programs, which can relieve women of stress and accommodate working parents with the offer of reliable childcare. Additionally, enterprises should be strongly encouraged to reevaluate inclusion policies to ensure that women and minority groups are better integrated in leadership roles and decision-making bodies. This would guarantee a unique perspective on the strategies and policies implemented and their efficacy as recovery efforts. It is imperative that initiatives to increase workforce diversity are followed through with, since marginalized cultural groups have also dealt with major unemployment throughout the pandemic. Aligning our recovery efforts with long-term objectives to reduce the impact of human activity on the environment, reduce workplace inequities, and integrate technology in society to improve the quality of life is absolutely necessary to emerge from the pandemic stronger and resilient. Thank you for listening.